Rich Edson, thank you very much. Rich, at the Pentagon with us right now, the Republican presidential candidate in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, very good to see you. Your thoughts first off, sir, on these 300 additional troops we're sending to the region, 1,200 in all right now, and that might not be it. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Neil, I look at all these attacks that are going against U.S. positions in the Middle East, and it seems like Biden has people there that are effectively sitting ducks. They're there in probably too small a numbers to really do a whole lot, but they're in sufficient numbers where they're an inviting target. And the response to those attacks has been abysmal.
Iranian proxies. Should that include attacks on Iran itself?
Well, look, I think that,
1,200 in all right now, and that might not be it. What do you think? And how we're responding. Rich.
Good afternoon, Neil. Well, the Pentagon says it is putting more munitions, more people, more troops into the region. The 300 you just heard announced there is on top of the 900 the Pentagon announced were heading there last week. This, as you mentioned, 27 separate attacks, according to the Pentagon, on U.S. positions across the Middle East in just the past couple of weeks. All this as Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was on Capitol Hill today testifying before the Senate Appropriations Committee. That was testifying about specifically this budget request for support of Israel. The Pentagon says it's sending on a near daily basis munitions to Israel, included precision-guided munitions, air defense systems, and also more interceptors for that Iron Dome missile defense system. Neil?
Rich Edson, thank you very much. Rich, at the Pentagon with us right now, the Republican presidential candidate in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, very good to see you. Your thoughts first off, sir, on these 300 additional troops we're sending to the region, 1,200 in all right now, and that might not be it. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Neil, I look at all these attacks that are going against U.S. positions in the Middle East, and it seems like Biden has people there that are effectively sitting ducks. They're there in probably too small a numbers to really do a whole lot, but they're in sufficient numbers where they're an inviting target. And the response to those attacks has been abysmal.
Iranian proxies. Should that include attacks on Iran itself?
Well, look, I think that, we don't want to blunder into another Middle Eastern war. I can tell you, as having been there back in the day, we were in a situation where the mission was murky. We didn't end up achieving a clear-cut victory. It's a sticky part of the world. So I think you got to be very, very careful. On the flip side, you can't just have American troops that people could just take pot shots at. That's not the way it works. I think he owes the American people an explanation of why those troops are there and what they're actually doing. He doesn't seem to have much of a strategy with any of that. But the conflicts that we had in the Middle East, I think, they left a lot of scars, a lot of veterans' families. Of course, we lost a lot of great war there. And I think he does owe an explanation for that. But that's a separate issue from if there are pot shots taken at American troops. You respond. Now, you got to do that in a way that will deter them, but you also have to be mindful of what that means. But we're not just going to sit there and allow American troops to be attacked. That is obviously unacceptable.
Now, obviously, our presence has been beefed up in and around the Mediterranean, certainly outside with the USS Gerald R. Ford, USS Ronald Reagan, a host of other ships coming there. China, too, is in that neck of the woods. So it is building, and there is a building global presence here. Are you worried that this turns out to be a far bigger war?
Well, that's obviously a risk, and I don't know that that's in our interest to want to get involved in that. But you're right to point out the role that China is playing. China is one of the biggest solidarity with what happened. We are part of this, and so they've linked themselves to Hamas in a way that takes them out of First Amendment activity, and it's effectively material support for terrorism when you actually link with a terrorist group. So that was really jarring to see in our own country, because we can look at the radicalism on college campuses. I mean, I joke, I'm one of the few guys that got through both Yale and Harvard and came out more conservative than when I went in. That's not easy to do. But I look back when I was there, you would not have seen students right on the heels of a terrorist attack go in and celebrate that. I think this is kind of a new sickness that we're seeing in more modern, more recent years in these college campuses. And so the question for us is, is this just something we're going to let to metastasize? Or are we going to say, no, making common cause with terrorist groups is a bridge too far? So we delisted Students for Justice and Power so that they can fight and win this war. And we should all agree on that. At the same time, we're also 33+ trillion in debt. So when you're supporting Israel, which we should do, I think what the House did to say, let's pare back in other areas, that represents sound judgment. That's what the Congress should be doing when these things happen as a matter of course. So my hope is that they can do the Israel, get that done, and I think that the American people will actually be impressed for a change to see Congress actually making decisions, actually having to set priorities, and helping an ally while at the same time not continuing to bankrupt this country.
I only ask you that in the context of the 24 race, Governor, because Nikki Haley has emerged as a strong polling favorite. She's tied with you in Iowa. And that has come really following her very tough talk.
Strong for the U.S.-Israel relationship, and we've really kind of set the debate, I think, in a way that's been very productive, and other candidates have had to follow suit from what we've said. Now, her position on basically a blank check for Ukraine, that is not popular with Republican voters. The federal government has borrowed money to send to pay the salaries of Ukrainian bureaucrats, the pension for Ukrainian bureaucrats. And actually, if you look at Israel, 75 years of a friendship, we've done about $158 billion over 75 years. U.S. just in the last year and a half, 2 years, has done $125 billion. So those are definitely different issues, and I think that voters see them differently. And that's the thing, as the president, as commander-in-chief, you have to be able to take each issue as you find it. You can't have a one-size-fits-all solution to everything. So we've been do a Green New Deal. That benefits Russia. It benefits Iran. It benefits China. The other thing he can do is start to get more serious about the Indo-Pacific. China's really getting a free ride right now. I think they love what's happening around the world, and it gives them the ability to pursue their interests in a way that U.S. deterrence probably isn't where it needs to be. So if he did those two things, I think it would help with both the Middle East, and I think it would help with Europe, because the amount of money that China, I mean, they're the main patron for Russia. They're buying gas, they're buying all this other stuff. If Russia didn't have that, and we were competing with them in energy better, they would not be able to continue funding this indefinitely.
Governor, and you've been very patient. I know you have to go. You have, been a closely watched candidate, always seen as the alternative to Donald Trump. I don't know if that holds on now with Nikki Haley and her surge. These are all polls, to your point. But I did want
of Iowa caucus goers who are considering me, who would consider voting for me even higher than Donald Trump, and that I had the highest net favorability of any by a pretty significant margin. So I think our work in Iowa has been good. We've covered a lot of the counties. We've gotten a lot of support that's been generated, and I think we've created a good impression. Now it's up to us over these next 80 days to bring that in for a landing, and when people go out to caucus, that I'm the guy that they're voting for. But we start right now in this final stretch run. We are in the best position in terms of our view of what the electorate views us, and I think that that's a testament to the hard work. A lot of this stuff has not been glamorous. It's not gotten a lot of headlines. We're going to small counties and we're meeting people and we're shaking their hand and we're answering